How's it going, Julie? It was really nice to talk to you on the phone last night. Sorry to hear about your argument with the straight guy who said gay and lesbian kids don't need laws to protect them in public schools. Some people are total jerks. Did you tell him that a lot of the rights he takes for granted are pretty much denied to us? I mean, something as simple as going to your high school prom is, like, totally impossible for gay kids. My mom was telling me about this guy named Aaron Frick who sued his Cumberland, Rhode Island high school in '79 because they wouldn't allow him to take his boyfriend to the prom.
Why did you feel you had to go to the prom? Did you want to make a statement?
I felt that, one, that I did have the right to do it, and two, yeah, it was a political statement. I really think it was a strong political statement.
You know, things haven't changed much between '79 and now, but I have a little hope that they will, because my mom also told me about a bunch of kids in Massachusetts who got together and actually changed a student rights law. Now, gay and lesbian kids throughout the entire state are protected against discrimination in public schools.
House Bill 3353 is an amendment to an existing student rights law in Massachusetts.
It's a law that prohibits discrimination in public schools on the basis of sexual orientation.
It was a bill that, in fact, added sexual orientation to the docket of race, creed, religious background, and made sure that no matter who you are, that your rights would be protected as a student.
This bill is fighting for equality. It's not, being safe in schools is not a special privilege, it's a right.
That's a mean-looking thing. It's kind of red. Tell us about that.
Well, it was a student in the high school, punched me. I think it was on account of his prejudice, actually, because he just couldn't accept my homosexuality, and he gave me a sucker punch.
Can you explain his behavior? I realize you're not a psychiatrist, but why do you think he did that?
Well, basically, many high school kids don't really know other gay people, and they're just going to want to, hit the first fag that comes along. And they do, because the teachers aren't there to, support us or protect us when we need it.
Bills written on paper initially aren't going to affect straight youth. Or straight youth have to interact and see these gay kids in their school and have to deal with them and talk to them and realize that they are people.
The goal of this entire law is to just make a public education accessible to all students. And that includes straight students who are perceived to be gay. Anyone who's harassed because of their sexual orientation or because of what people think their orientation is in effect being robbed of their public education.
It's not in any way promoting kids or anyone to identify themselves in a certain way. It's simply trying to make schools safe for people that do identify themselves as gay or lesbian or bisexual.
It empowers teachers, first of all, to talk about gay and lesbian issues in class, to say that, this person or that person, a poet or a writer, was gay. It allows students to bring same-sex partners to the prom. It just allows them to be out and open and feeling good about themselves and knowing that they're protected and that they feel safe.
Being able to have the law behind you and say, I need to be able to have my right to a public education now, hopefully it would enable, at least it would reduce the dropout rate and enable more students to finish high school. And the suicide rate too, hopefully. Hearing all sorts of stories about people being kicked out of school and being harassed and having to leave school, having to drop out through no fault of their own just because the environment was too uncomfortable for them, it really kind of made me realize it was a reality check that said something really needs to be done here.
When I was first questioning my sexuality, I went to my guidance counselor talking to her about the mixed feelings I had for my girlfriend and my best friend, who was, a guy. And without asking her to do anything, she took it upon herself to notify my parents and express her concerns about the fact that I might be gay. And if House Bill 3353 had been in effect, I don't think that would have happened. She wouldn't have had the authority to do that. I freaked out, and it was the last time I went to school. My very last day was the end of my junior year.
I wasn't one of the kids that were like teased or necessarily beat on or talked about. I was just invisible. You know, I wasn't living up to my potential. I was just quiet, so I thought silence would basically save me. You know, no one would know I was gay if I didn't talk at all. You know, so that's what happened. So I didn't talk. I didn't do anything. I wasn't really an achiever.
I really started to break away from everything. It really started to make me think about what was really going on with me, and it really started my whole coming out and coming to terms with me being gay. As time went on and I became really vocal in the community in Boston, I spoke at Gay Pride '92 and ended up having my picture in the newspaper, unknown to me. Well, my mother saw it, and so did everybody she worked with. My parents couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with the fact that this wasn't a family secret, that this was a very public thing. They didn't understand what was going on. I had no idea how to explain it, how to help them understand. And what ended up happening, there was this huge fight at home.
I went downstairs, the door was locked, and I knocked at the door and I told them, if you don't open the door, I call the cops on you. And I did. I came upstairs and I called the cops. And at that day, they came over and they took him out of the house.
The police officer judged me for being gay, said that if his son were gay, he'd be living on the streets. He took my keys and he made me leave.
But it was just because at that time I was just going through too much stress. But I really regret it today. And I'm very sorry I did that. I should never have done it.
I turned to my friends, asking them to help me, my straight friends growing up, asking them to help me. And they said no, because they were afraid of being guilty by association. And I called the Department of Social Services, where it is I thought that you were supposed to go when you got kicked out of your house or you ran away or whatever. And they told me that they didn't have any services for me because I was gay. So I was homeless for a couple of weeks until I was able to get my own apartment and get back on my feet. And when I found out about the bill, I had absolutely nothing to lose, and saw it as a chance to do something for other kids like me growing up who might be going through the same thing.
My family initially were very distant from this. They kind of didn't want to hear what I was doing, and they didn't want to be involved in the activism part, because I don't think they could have. They were at a point they were ready to deal with, me being so open about my sexuality.
I think a lot of people who really don't want to look very far into it about why this issue is so important to me or anyone have a tendency to write people off, or write me off as a dyke. But again, those people aren't really my close friends, and it's sort of their problem if they have a problem with me standing up for what I believe in, because I do believe in this so strongly.
I think sometimes my parents were a little worried about what kind of backlash might come from my being so visible, but they've taped all my news broadcasts, and they've been generally very supportive. The students should not have to worry about safety in schools. That's not our job. Our job is to learn, and it is the job of all educators to make sure that school is a place where we can learn.
I'd like to start by reading you something that I wrote in my diary when I was a 14-year-old freshman. I know that being gay is not something you choose. It just happens. I don't want to be a lesbian, though. It would be so hard. I can't really do anything about it now, but if anyone knew, it would be awful. I know kids my age would never accept this kind of thing. If anyone ever reads this, I'll die.
A close friend of mine, she's 15 years old, was beaten up last week because she came out to the wrong person. Her chiropractor said that she was hurt more seriously than people coming out of a serious car accident.
As a member of the gay community and as an out gay man, I could not go to Lexington High. Lexington High and many high schools across this state are known to be not safe for gay and lesbian teenagers.
Passage of this bill was really unique in that it was actually filed by, filed by, and testified and lobbied by all youth, and that we actually empowered ourselves to make this happen. It also brought out a lot of students, not just gay and lesbian students, to work together and realizing that homophobia doesn't just affect gay and lesbian people, but affects all people.
I made phone calls, I lobbied senators, I was a team leader in the lobbying effort. That meant I just led a group of people to see 1 or 2 senators. I held vigils outside the State House every Monday afternoon.
When students heard about it and realized how important it was and they rallied around it, I think it made a lot of people take off that indifference and look and see what was going on and what the students wanted. I think it was a surprise. This was a youth movement, you know. It wasn't adults. It wasn't adult politicians. It was youth saying, this is what we want, this is what we need.
I did have some doubts about the bill being passed just because, well, even though there were so many people in favor of it and so many people doing so much to support it and promote it, there were a lot of people who were opposed to it.
The arguments were the classic, they want special rights, it's not fair, or we don't want gay children in our schools, or we don't have gay students in our schools. I think was a very common one. People just said, oh, we don't have that problem. We don't need to protect our gay students because they're simply not here, which of course is part of what contributes to the whole situation.
You'd be surprised a lot of the gay youth who oppose this bill. I have a great deal of friends who were gay and said, well, this is ridiculous, this is not going to change anything. It's kind of a waste of time, so why even bother, you know? It's part of growing up. I think that shows a lot of this internalized homophobia that a lot of these kids are dealing with.
I think that the adult gay and lesbian community has been afraid to take on youth issues because of all the stereotypes and misconceptions that have been set for the gay community by the mainstream up until now. The whole myth that gay people are pedophiles. People are trying to break away from that. They were also trying to break away from the youth because they didn't want to be tagged on with those stereotypes and wanted to get things accomplished, but unfortunately forgot about where it came from and where this movement really came from, and it comes from growing up gay, growing up and feeling isolated, alone and confused.
When it comes to Governor Weld's reaction to this bill, I think at first, you know, he didn't want to touch it. But I think when he saw the youth involvement and saw what this bill would mean, that he had to. I mean, this bill was the right thing to do. So when you're faced with the right thing to do, sometimes your only choice is to do it.
Gay rights bill was signed by the governor this morning.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know. It means a lot. It means that we're not going to have to spend all our afternoons at the State House anymore.
Gay rights advocates say Governor Weld, more than any other governor in the country, is on the cutting edge of this issue. Yet when he signed the bill this morning, he did so in the privacy of his office. This is not an issue that conservatives within his own party care to publicize.
Well, it would mean that if it would not be appropriate for a school to deny admission to a gay student because of sexual orientation, or to deny a gay or lesbian student permission to participate on a sports team or to take an arts class. Very hard to argue with, in my opinion.
I like to see this bill affect issues around health. I think it's important that we can't have a sex education program without homosexuality being discussed. You're talking about safe sex, and you're not going to talk about, you know, anal sex, oral sex. It's ridiculous because you're not ensuring the youth's health. So I think this bill will make it a little bit easier for teachers to discuss these issues accurately and appropriately. So that's what I hope this bill is going to do.
I think this is incredibly amazing. A group of youth in the Boston area, just right here, have changed the law, essentially. They have stood up for what they believe in, and there have been major legal, tangible changes made because of that. To me, that is so exciting, and I have major hope for what will happen in the future because of that.
Kids will realize that this is the way things should be, and they'll go on to fight to make it more equal in the outside world, out of school. I think it's like kind of like lighting the flame, really just start the real big fire, which is going to hit, hopefully, the rest of society. So I think that's the start. I think that's what this is going to do.
I'd at least like to see a world where gay and lesbian students could just go through high school just being students and not having to worry about their identity as gay or lesbian all the time, and not having to explain themselves to their friends, to their teachers, or to be faced with things that they couldn't identify with all the time. You know, I'd like to see math word problems with same-sex couples in them. And it wouldn't be much, but it's amazing how much a little pronoun can do.
We're free. We're queer as can be. We're young. We're free. We're queer as can be.
When I was a young child, my parents bought me a new winter hat, and it was purple with a very large red pom-pom on top. And I would wear this hat to school every day very proudly. But the other children would pull at the red pom-pom until they got the hat off my head, and they'd toss it around to each other trying to keep it away from me. And I'd walk home and I'd apologize to my hat. And this happened so often that eventually I stopped wearing my hat to school. And one day my mother said to me, "Why aren't you wearing your hat? It's cold outside." So I put it on, but I put it on inside out, so I had this big lump on top of my head. And my mother said, "Stop acting so silly. Why are you acting so silly?" And I broke down crying, and I ran into her arms, and I told her. And after she had assured herself that I had done all the proper things to stop the harassment, she said to me simply, "Come to the sewing room." And she took me down to her sewing room, and she handed me a handful of straight pins, and she instructed me to stick them through the pom-pom in all different directions. I couldn't wait to go to school the next day. And when I did, every kid that took a swipe at my red pom-pom got a handful of pins. They never touched my hat again.
Major funding for the question of equality was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Additional funding is provided by these and additional funders. A complete list is available from ITVS, the independent television service.